Have you ever walked into a room and the tension was so thick that you could literally feel like you can cut it with a knife? Or you were having a conversation with a group of people and something just shifted where it made you feel physically sick and you could see it in the faces of everybody around you? On today's episode, we're going to talk about 5 signs that you're sensitive to energy or are becoming more sensitive to energy, and what to do about it and how to protect yourself. I'm Dr. Michael DiMarco, and welcome to another episode of Event Horizons, where we talk about everything in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. On today's episode, we're going to talk about 5 signs that you are sensitive to energy or are becoming more sensitive to energy. And at the end of this episode, I'm going to share a couple ways that you can deal with that sensitivity and how you can protect yourself from other people's energy and the things around you, and even how you can develop these kind of sort of new superpowers into something that's actually useful and beneficial for you, something in your life. But first we have to understand what energy is. Now, everything in the universe is actually made out of energy. Everything that's made of atoms is technically made out of energy. And when I'm talking about energy, I'm talking about the type of energy that typically, as humans, our 5 senses cannot perceive. And this can be called subtle energy. This can be called the unified field. What I'm talking about is the energy that encases the information that tells matter what to be. And this is the same energy that we can find in our auras, we can find around all matter, in between all things. After all, we are 99.9% empty space. Now, me talking to you, even ourselves, we're 99.9% empty space. Even though we can't really perceive it with our senses, that's actually what we are. And that space is not empty. That space contains energy. And that energy also contains information. And sometimes we can become more sensitive to this energy, and we can actually start perceiving this energy. As we develop these perceptive powers of perceiving energy, sometimes we can misinterpret them as other things. And people might think that you're going crazy because you tell them that you're seeing things and feeling things that they can't see or feel. And you might end up thinking that you're crazy because you're seeing things and feeling things that a lot of other people cannot feel. But I'm here to tell you that all of us actually have this innate ability within us. Just some of us do things in our lives that bring about this awareness over time and develop this ability in ourselves. Now, the first sign that we're going to talk about is feeling emotions and physically feeling this within your body. Just like as I said when I opened up the video, sometimes when you walk into a room, you can physically feel the tension in the room. You can physically feel the emotions of other people around you. And if they're not feeling good, it can make you sick. But sometimes if they're feeling good and they're high vibe, you can actually feel better from entering that room and being around those people. So we can have both. It can go both directions. You can feel good or you can feel bad. And it's the times when we feel bad is when we think something is actually wrong with us. But maybe it's not something wrong with us and we're just perceiving it with other people. After all, what are emotions? Where do emotions even come? Why do we even call them emotions? This can also be perceived as sometimes called empathy. And what's happening when we're empathetic? We're perceiving the emotions of other people. We're experiencing the emotions of other people. And this is actually something physical that happens. We have these special neurons in our brain called mirror neurons that actually allow us to perceive what other people are perceiving, and our body starts to mimic that. So this is not only energetic, but also biological as of why we can perceive the way that other people feel in our own body. I remember this one time that I was going into the office and I just felt immediately sick when I was around this one person, like physically sick in my body. And it was the first time that I ever noticed that I could actually feel the energy of somebody else. And I think I was actually developing this ability while I was treating patients and was going through my life. And maybe this is something that I always had, but I wasn't aware of it. Maybe this is a reason why I felt sick or felt low energy, like tired, around certain people or in certain situations, and I didn't really know it. This was the first time that I actually realized it, because I felt physically sick. And nothing around, if you looked around the room, looked like there was something going on, but I knew there was something going on. And it didn't happen until a few days later, and then even things that how they unfolded over the next few months, that I was actually right. Now, was it I creating this reality because of like how I was feeling, or did I perceive something that was going on that I shouldn't have known about? And I think it's actually that. I think I was actually perceiving the information in the field of what was going on, and I could have investigated it further, but I chose not to, because like most people, when you start feeling these things, it's kind of scary that you can actually feel the emotions and energy of other people and situations. We're going to talk about what to do about that and how to work with it towards the end of the video, so stick with me, tag along for these next few, and we're going to actually go over what to do at the end of the video. Now, the second thing is an increase in senses sensitivity. So we have 5 senses. We have the ability to see, we have the ability to touch, we have our nose, ability to smell, hearing, how to hear things, and we have the taste and smell, right? And as we start to develop and as we start to increase our ability to perceive energy, subtle energy, one might call it quantum energy, our senses can also over time develop the ability to perceive these things as well, even deeper. So it might seem like your senses are actually getting stronger. It might seem like your ability to touch, ability to smell, ability to see is actually getting stronger. You might see and smell things that you couldn't before. You might be able to feel things that you couldn't before. I know for me, as I was going through and treating patients as a chiropractor, hang on, you got to see this guy. In my job as a chiropractor, when I was working with people, at first I thought that I was just working with their bodies and helping them to physically move better and working with their muscles and loosening up their muscles. But actually what I was doing is I was working with this infinite intelligence energy that's in all things, that's around all things, in between all things, that tells matter what to be. And as I was working with this energy, my hands started to become more sensitive to this energy. And it got to the point, and it still is at the point, where I can't touch hot things without it being overly sensitive to my hands. Or cold things without it being overly sensitive to my hands. And that never happened to me before. That was never a problem. That was never an issue. It's just something that started to happen over time as I start to develop this ability to work with this energy. And I am not one of these super expert energy masters that can manipulate energy at a distance, like you might have seen on YouTube or some of these shows on Gaia or Netflix. Because we all have these abilities, and sometimes we over-exaggerate these abilities to the point where they almost don't become believable for ourselves to think that maybe we have this, maybe we can do this, maybe this is something we have in ourselves. I also remember a time that I was getting really deep into meditation. I was meditating for a long time, and my sense of smell started to get really, really good. Where I was walking down the street and I smelled the smell of a banana, and I looked around and there were no bananas at all. And I walked down the street maybe about 150 feet around the corner, walking the dog around the corner, and I saw a banana peel on the ground. Our sense of smell, what we're taught in school typically is that we have these receptors on our nose, and these molecules of smell latch on to those receptors, and that's how we're able to smell. But that's actually found not to be the case. What you're actually doing when you smell is you're picking up the resonance, the resonant frequency of the molecules of the thing that you're smelling. So you're actually using quantum mechanics to be able to smell things. You're smelling the vibration of the thing that you're smelling, which is why I was able to smell something so far away that typically you need to be at a close distance to even notice and perceive in your reality when there's actually so much going on around you. Our next thing, number 3, is kind of similar to number 2, and that's developing a tingling sensation in your body or a ringing in your ears, like this feeling in your body. Sometimes you can feel electricity in your body. For me, it's having tingling in my hands, just like all the time. And you have to be able to tell the difference between a tingling in your hands from being able to feel energy versus a tingling from some kind of condition that's like a nerve condition or something like that. But maybe those conditions are actually people's ability to be able to feel energy. Maybe it's less energy flowing through, or maybe it's more energy flowing through. That's up to you to determine about what it is. And this is not medical advice, this is just educational advice. If you think there's something seriously wrong, go to a doctor and get checked out. But if you have a tingling in your fingers or a ringing in your ears sometimes, and you go to the doctor and you do all these treatments and they tell you that nothing is wrong, perhaps it's your ability, or you're developing these abilities to perceive and feel subtle energies with your senses that you couldn't before. Some people are able to see this energy. I can't see this energy, but some people are able to see this energy in the form of colors or auras or energy around people. And by all means, these 5 things are not the end all and be all of how people can see and experience and develop their abilities to use and have the awareness of energy. This is just 5 things that I noticed in my life and with other people, with people that I work with, about how they're developing these superpowers of perceiving and using energy. Now, the 4th thing that we're going to talk about, 5 signs that you're sensitive to energy, is intuition. An increase in intuition, an increase in knowingness, an increase in knowing that when certain things are going to happen, how certain people are going to be, what's going on. There's a knowingness. There's an increase in your intuition and your ability to listen to your intuition. Or maybe you ignore your intuition, or maybe you ignore these signs, this information that's coming, that you're downloading. And things might happen and unfold in your life that give you the awareness that, oh man, those things that I thought were going to happen, that my intuition was telling me that were going to happen, ended up happening. And this pattern develops of these things keep happening. You have this intuition of things keep happening. That is also your ability. That is also you becoming more sensitive to energy, because energy a lot of times has information encoded in it. And as we become more sensitive to this energy, as we allow this energy to flow through us, we also get that information along with it. And that information can carry along with it ideas, creative ideas, ideas for inventions, ideas for your next step in your business, ideas for your next step in your relationship, and just a general knowingness of things that are going to happen. Now, the 5th thing that you're becoming more sensitive to energy, the 5th way to know, is an increase in energy awareness. And this is actually one of the most important in my opinion, because when you notice this, an increase in energy awareness, you are able to develop these abilities further. When I say increase in energy awareness, I mean an awareness of what around you, or what you do, or people around you, or situations that you're in, take energy from you, that require energy from you, and also other ones that actually give you energy, ones that make you feel good, ones that have this creative flow that You know if you follow it, it's going to lead to something good. It's going to lead to these synchronicities in your life, things that happen that are in line with the highest path of your existence. Energy awareness is super important because it will allow us, as we develop more energy awareness, to guide our life into one that gives us energy as opposed to taking energy away from us. Now, introverts are super tuned in to energy awareness. Usually people who are introverted they know. I'm an introvert too, so I know this. I know what it's like. Going in certain situations, being around large groups of people. You can do it. A lot of you can do it for a short period of time, but if you do it for too long, or when you leave, you're gonna feel drained. You're gonna feel like you took on the entire energy of that room, or that room took all of the energy from you, and you're drained and you need to recharge. And how you recharge is in solitude, by being alone, by being with yourself. And that being with yourself is where the creative energy lies, where the intuition energy lies, where that life force energy can now come through you and recharge you. And introverted people are typically very energetically sensitive people. And sometimes they know it and sometimes they don't. Sometimes when they don't know it, when you don't know that you're energy sensitive, a lot of these things can be perceived as diseases or pain or struggle or depression or something undesirable. And when you go down that route and you're not aware of what's actually happening to you, you can build these layers of things that block you to knowing that you're actually energy sensitive. And what we resist persists. So things are going to keep happening that are going to show you that you're energy sensitive, and eventually you're going to have to face it. So what do we actually do about it? What do we actually do when we realize that not only are we energy sensitive, but we're becoming more and more sensitive to energy around us? And this is going to start happening with a lot of people because of the time that we're in. So this information, knowing what to do, is critical. It's so important. So I'm going to go over 3 things that you can do once you realize that you're energy sensitive. Now, the first would be grounding. So since we are electromagnetic, energetic beings, and that our body produces a magnetic field, we need to ground that field. We need to ground that energy. And the best way that we can ground that energy is to go out into nature. To go out into nature and touch the ground. To go to the beach and walk on the ocean walk on the sand with your bare feet. Put your feet into the ocean. Water, especially salt water, has a lot of positive ions. Those ions can help you ground. Or if you don't have access to an ocean, just go out in nature and touch the grass, touch the trees. And I think this is where we get the term tree huggers from, when people were talking about hippies, because what they were actually doing was grounding themselves to the frequency of the earth. And the earth gives off a frequency, it's a healing frequency. A lot of people go into nature and they actually heal. This is why in Japan, going out into nature and walking through the forest, it's a treatment for helping with depression, anxiety, and just general feeling of well-being. And the second thing that we can do to help deal with this energy sensitivity that we're developing is learn how to meditate. And we learn how to meditate every single day when you wake up. Meditate for at least 20 minutes. And what you're doing when you're meditating is getting in between the thoughts, getting into that empty space, getting into the field where this energy exists, where this information exists, into the place where you lose yourself, where you become no thought, where you become no thing, you become no one, and you go beyond time. And when you enter this space, it's kind of like clearing off the canvas, clearing out all of the energy and information that you took on from the day before. And when we do that, we're able to start fresh. and we're able to manage the energy that we take on throughout the day. And then from there, we're also able to set an intention for how we want the day to go, a clear intention, because we gained clarity on our energy by going into that space of meditation. And we're able to manifest things, and we're able to do things with clarity and get ideas and go about our day in a way that we control rather than letting reality control us. And the third way is not really about protecting your energy, and it's not really about protecting yourself from other people. It's about going and inquiring further, maybe working with a coach, or reading a book, or taking a course, or going on a retreat, and learning how to develop these abilities further. Because it's my opinion that when you start developing these abilities, when you start developing a sensitivity to energy, it's actually happening for a reason. It's actually happening for you to start developing these abilities into something great. And I think it's why this actually ends up happening to a lot of my colleagues who work with people's bodies. And it's because you're helping people, you're working with this energy and you don't know it, and you start developing these abilities and you don't really know what's going on. And some people don't want to even go in that direction because it sounds crazy. It sounds like it's not real, but it is real. That is something that actually happens. This energy does exist. It's the reason why we all exist. This energy with this information encoded in it is why reality is even here. It's time to start admitting that. And once we can admit that there are things in the universe, there are things that we don't know. And what we don't know is exponential. And what we don't know is infinite. So be open. Be open to the possibility that these abilities, these feelings, these thoughts, this intuition, these things that are happening and unfolding in your life, they're guiding you to something greater. And it's our duty to go deeper into them, lean into them, ask why they're happening, ask your intuition. How can I develop these abilities further? Why are these gifts unfolding for me? Ask yourself these questions. Ask yourself these questions, and if you actually end up getting an answer, I would love for you to share it in the comments below. I just want to thank you for joining me on another episode of Event Horizons. I appreciate you, I love you, and I would love for you, if you feel like called to do it, subscribe to my channel, give my video a thumbs up if you feel like it deserves a thumbs up. If you feel like it doesn't, give it a thumbs down, give it something, give me feedback so I can keep making these videos better. And if there are any topics that you would like me to cover in future videos, because I'm going to do a lot of these, I'm committed to it. Just like you should be committed to developing your abilities because you're becoming more energy sensitive. I would love to know. Let me know what you would like to hear more of. But thank you for joining me. I love you. See you on the next one. Peace.